Good morning and welcome to the Sunday Relevant Horse Racing Podcast. I am your host, Russell Moore, along with my co-host, Michael Serio here, and we are going to dive into the Belmont Late Pick 5 today. But first, Michael, what'd you think about last night? What'd you think about that awesome again stakes race?
The biggest takeaway that I got was that maximum security is not maximum security. And not that he's not talented enough to win a previous cup or something like that, but there's definitely a difference from Jason Serapis to Bob Baffert. He's still good, but maximum security just didn't look right. And Probable had the perfect trip. I mean, it was great, and he looked great. He's going to be a top 2 or 3 choice in this classic, and it's a real threat. There's no doubt.
I have a slightly different take. I have less of a criticism of maximum security and more of a wow at Improbable because you talk about the trip, but he basically just took him to the middle of the track the whole race, and then when it was time to go, to win the race, he won the race like it wasn't that much of a big deal. I think that coupled with his performance in the Whitney, which I think got a little bit, I think he was dissed a bit in the Whitney because that other horse there, Tom's D'Etat, did stumble at the gate, but I don't think that was going to matter much in the Whitney. I think he was much the best there too. So my takeaway was watch out for Improbable, and he's the likely favorite in the Breeders' Cup Classic. That was kind of my take.
Well, yeah, and you have to like his versatility, because obviously, Tom stumbling in the Whitney, he was able to go to the front and just take them to the wire. But also he can lay off. If they're going too quick, he doesn't have to be on the front end, which is good. So, depending on how the race breaks down, he could be anywhere and win. There's no doubt he is a threat. There's no doubt.
Yep, and he's just one more piece of evidence as to why horses, I think, are retiring way too early in their careers because, the beginning of this season, I wouldn't have given much thought to Improbable. I would have thought he was just another horse, another very good horse out there. I never would have thought he'd be a literally great horse. So I think some of these owners and some of these, basically owners have to start considering running these horses into their 4th and 5th year and even 6th year because I think that, some horses mature later than others. So.
No, I agree.
All right, let's get into the thick of it here. Let's try to make some money today. It would be nice. We're off a 2-week respite. So let's start off. It's Late Pick 5. Starts in Belmont 6th race. It's a 1.8 mile race on the turf for maidens. Get some nice horses here. Little handicapping angle because you're asking maidens to go relatively long distance. Mike, what do you got here?
It's a nice race, and it's pretty much wide open, and the track handicap was telling me that with what he's assigned these morning lines. Clearly, my top 2 choices are the 2 and the 6. This should be no surprise to anyone. They're the real players in here.
Say that again.
There's a lot of horses.
What?
The 2 and the 6.
Okay.
The 3 I like a little bit. Shigugeki. He's usually bred for the distance, for the turf. He did run his best race last time at the 71 in the slot. It wasn't a huge jump or anything like that, like it might have been the slot. But what you tend to find, I got a book I tested for the Hall of Fame years ago. Horses that run really well in the trip, according to him, have wider feet than dirt horses which have narrower feet. And he would find that turf horses run well in the slot because they can kind of paddle through the slot a little bit. So I think that just because he ran well in the slot isn't any indication that he's not going to continue to move forward on the turf. The one horse that I really like the most, I think, is the 4, Look Me Over. Michael Mack is a really good trainer. He's not your Todd Fletcher 20%er, but this is a really well-bred horse. And if you're a buyer figure man, he fits right in. Your top 2 choices are running, low to mid 70. This is a horse that 2 out of the last 3 races ran a 71 and a 73, just getting beat both times with Brownie Beast on him. Dylan Davis picks him up. He is off the layoff. Mike Mack is 24% off the layoff. And he comes in with a nice 1 minute 5 furlong work. I think that my grandfather, who's trained horses for years, I don't know the theory behind it or what he based it on, but he always said that turf horses can win off layoff. Turf horses have a harder time.
Sure.
And so I'm keeping that in my mind.
And there's someone else who said that as well. Probably in my opinion, the best jockey of all time, Jerry Bailey, said the same thing. So, we've got two people who knew what they were talking about. Your grandfather and none other than Jerry Bailey. So I think that's a nice horse to use in the race. At a morning line 12-1, I think you're definitely gonna get 10-1 on this horse. And this horse that you're talking about shows that on her best day, she can be right there. She's run a 73 buyer before, so that's pretty good.
I agree.
All right, so that's your best pick is the 4 in that leg. Let's move on to the next leg, which is race 7 at Belmont. It's a 6.5 maiden special weight sprint race for maidens 2 years old. And similarly, along the same lines as your number one pick in that last race was 12-1. My number one pick in this race is morning line 12-1 as well. I like the Reds. Eric Cancel rides. Threw up a nice bullet workout last time the horse worked in September. Then I go to the August 31st workout. This horse breezed from the gate, came fourth that day out of 109 horses. Not came fourth, but was the fourth fastest timed horse out of 109 that went that distance on that day. So this horse has clearly got something on the ball here. You look at the sire's fee. The sire's fee is $15,000. Then it goes to a sale, sells for $130,000. So that's a pretty good multiplier. It's got every reason that this horse could come out of the gate flying. So I'm on the floor here. I'm obviously going to use some other horses, but I have heard something from some handicappers in the past, and I read a good article by a handicapper who was talking about handicapping pick fives. And this gentleman said, in a race where you like the long shot, you like a mid-priced horse or a long shot, you ought to consider singling that horse and then giving yourself a lot of coverage in the other races. The theory being, if your single comes in and then you have a lot of coverage in the other races, you could be looking at a pick five that pays $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Any thoughts on that, Mike?
I agree. I mean, that's definitely an angle you could take. What I've had success with, and with my group anyways, is trying to find a single, if a 5-horse sequence that we pull together. Our tickets will be anywhere from $400 to $700 or $800. And what we'll try to do is we'll try to find who we think the best horse is. We single that one horse, and we are deep in the other 4. And so to not to say that you can't hit a $10 or $15, $20,000 pick five, this hitting a 7-5 shot, but the logic is sound where if you really, really like I really like win at Saratoga, I really should have singled him.
Exactly.
I probably would have come in because that would have been so much cheaper. Like, to me, that's how you hit like a $50,000 pick five. Not like 10 or 20 is not crazy.
Right.
But 50 or 100 would be nuts.
But that's how you do it. You single a horse like the horse you mentioned in the previous race, which was the 4. Or if you're me, you single the 4 in the 7th race, because then you'll have a 15, 20 to 1 shot there, and then you'll be deep in another leg where you might get another 10, 15, 20 to 1 shot. So now you get 2 of them. So now you get a 7 of, maybe another 5 to 1, 7 to 1. And then even if you get 2 to 1, you're still looking at a 5-figure pick five. So I think, what this your way, you can still hit a 5-figure pick five, and you're also going to hit more smaller pick fives along the way.
Yes.
But with the way this guy was talking, he was arguing that with this way you'll get the big score, the long dollar. So that's why he likes to go this route. But enough about the ticket construction strategy. Let's stay on race 7. Who else do you like here? What else? I got the 4. Who do you got? What are some the next 2 or the top 2 or 3 contenders in your estimation?
So, I'm not getting cute with it or sexy with it. In my ticket, I'm doing the single to 6, just because his debut was really nice. He just got beat. He should move forward. He should be tougher. And it's going to be harder for these other horses who all look. I mean, I have a hard time differentiating any of them just because they're all so good. And even looking at some of the, the 2, Robert Cross's horse, he's 0% first-time starters. But I don't think that's applicable to this because these are all their best 2-year-olds. So it's not like you can take a mass data to look at that. The one horse, so I'm going to end up sticking with 6. The one horse you should look at if you're going to be deeper into is the 5. And I only say that because, and Belmont's only 11% purchase, but this is a half brother to Lake Avenue. If you're familiar with Lake Avenue, he was the Breeders' Cup Sprint, I believe on the turf winner for Chad Brown about 3 or 4 years ago, and as well another brother to another multiple stakes winner. So he has a lot of black type brethren, as runners. And so, he's something to look at if you're in the pedigree.
What about the 8 horse? I don't know if I could single this race because of the 8. I mean, you got Todd Pletcher, who's been back to Todd Pletcher this year. It's straight out of Curlin. The horse, $175,000 sire fee. The horse is doing the right things in the morning. The horse isn't just racing for himself. So I don't know. I feel like if I singled this,
add one horse, if I add one, that's what I would add.
Okay.
And that's only because it's Todd Pletcher. You have some good connections. He's looking up. Yeah, I mean, I could say the same thing to a lot of these horses. I mean, the 1 is working for Asmussen very nicely. And like I said, the 2 just worked 4 and 46 from the gate. He might come out in the lead. And some of these horses are so good, they just don't give it up, So I think it's a tough race just because you don't really know what you're running against. And all these trainers, these are their best 2-year-olds. And as you pointed out, when you look at the multiples, I agree with you 100%, particularly if they're coming in, if you're familiar with the sale. And that's for, the OBS, Ocala Breeders' sale for 2-year-olds. That is a breeze show. So they actually get to see the horse run, and that's why you get those multiples. So he must have run really, really well for them to pay that amount for that horse, rather than a yearling sale where they're just looking at the horse.
Yep.
And so I do like your multiples on those 2-year-old sales, and there's a couple of them in here that even the 2 that came out of the same sale who paid 5 times their multiple.
Yeah, and they sold for the same price.
Yeah, true.
Yep, it's true. I can understand singling though. I mean, you've got the one horse in the race that has proven something. That's the interesting, Chad Brown. So sure. All right, let's move on to race 8 then. In that case, and this is a race that really confounds me. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. It's a 6 furlong, inner turf race. New York bred horses running for allowance purse $55,000. I'm really deep in this race, and I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised really if most of these horses won. So that being said, who do you start off with? Who are you looking at first?
Well, we can't ignore the 10 and 11. Clearly, they're the ones to beat with Belmont Park. They run well. But let's not act like they are, 3 to 5 favorites in here.
Right, that's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. If you use them as the benchmark with their higher speed figures and how they run, there's a lot of horses that could jump up and get them. And you're right, I'm about 7 deep in here. Turf Sprint scared me to begin with, but just a couple, everybody who's gonna, have the 10 and 11, I think, will be looking at the 2, 3, 4, who are all like 5 to 1. The 2 that I really like are the 8 and the 9, particularly the 9 for Leo Giamatti. The breeding on this horse, Northern Fleet, who had a Fleet Alex, I did a lot of research into that pedigree. There's a lot of first pedigree in there. Plus she's got giant false on the mare side. But if you look back at her, I should say his, October 19th, 2019 race at Belmont, had an 80 on the front end. I think this horse could go to the lead. Definitely like Belmont. I mean, 4 for 9, first or second on that turf course. Leo Giamatti is not the best trainer in the world. Sometimes she's not consistent, and that's what this horse is showing. This horse could finish 7th, or this horse could win. I'm not sure which race you're going to get out of them, but clearly isn't as good as Saratoga, but still two back ran a 72, which is right within the buyer speed figures here, and just got beat. Now she's shortening up, has some speed. I think that Alvarado's going to send this horse and start a wild steal. So I really do like the 9, and I also like the 8, the Christophe Belmont horse. First time for him, good breeding. The buyer speed figure 2 back, put this horse right there, running at 73 and 76 when you're 5 to 2 second short or favorites just ran a 77 2 back. So I think that they kind of fit in the same realm. I would not single those horses by any stretch, but if you're going to be beat, that's what I would do.
You look at a horse like the 4, the 3 back, the horse runs an 86 buyer, wins the race. Yes. And you go 2 back from that, 83 buyer right there, misses by a head. But then you go to the last race and the horse, loses, it does have a trouble line, bumped at the break, but got beat by a few horses in this race and ran a pretty weak buyer. And then, you just don't know what's going to happen 4th time off a layoff. So, again, there's so many question marks for all these horses in this race. It's a confounding race, I think, in my opinion.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, and then you move to the next race, race 9, and then you'll move to race 10. I think the last 2 races in the sequence are a little more clear cut on paper. Problem is they don't run on paper; they run on the track. So that's always another problem. But again, I mean, you look at race 9. It's 1 mile, an allowance race, 65,000. This is this a 1X? Yes, it's a 1X. 1 mile dirt. To me, it looks like it's a 2-horse race. It's the 2, Mrs. Danvers, and it's the 3, Papa Chalk. I just feel like one of those 2 horses, have the buyers to win it. And outside of maybe the 7, it just seems like it's between those 2. What's your take on this?
If you're planning to pick 5, this is one of the legs where you could probably just try to get through with the 2 and the 3 and just say, it's a field of 7. I had the top 2 choices who are clearly better than all the other horses, and let's try to get through them so you can be beat in, say, the previous race or the next race. One thing that I'm stuck on kind of in developing my ticket here is whether to go 3D.
Right.
And that's a critical point of pick 5 because that really, if you're deep in the other leg, that really exponentially increases your ticket cost at least by 50%. Because I'm looking at the 7. Englehart can be dangerous. If you look 2 back when he was doing under a mile, and this is at a mile, he went 7 furlongs, ran an 81, 1 easy. That was a very good race. Now it's state bred, I know, but he runs kind of the 78 to 80 range. These horses aren't running much better than that, and they're still young. And clearly, last time out, he went too far in the Fleet Indian race. Very internal. But he wasn't just great at Aqueduct last December, going a mile and 8 in a grade 2. So that's he's one that I'm on the fence now. I don't know if I like him or not. I like him enough to throw him in, but the 2-3, I mean, everybody should have him.
Sure. Yep. I think unfortunately, for the cost of the ticket, I feel as if I would rather go deeper in some of those other legs. And like you said, if the 2 horses that I think are the 2 best in the race don't win, then unfortunately I have to destroy a ticket.
Yeah.
All right, and then you go to the 10th race, and it's a very similar situation in my opinion. I think this race is between the 9 and the 10. This last race is a turf race. It's a mile and a 16th, claiming $40,000 claimers. So you look at the race, and again, they have buyers that are a cut above the rest, and they're both trained by Michael Maker, who's I think one of the best trainers in the country, certainly one of the most underrated trainers. He's been on fire lately. What do you think? What's your take on this race?
So when you're playing your ticket, I wouldn't disagree with anybody who wanted to just single the 10. He's obviously cut above the 9, just because he's doing this against winners and horses that are much better than they play 40. That being said, I wouldn't, disagree with anybody who wants to throw the night in because he clearly has some speed. And this is a race where there isn't a tremendous amount of it. So you have to worry he gets alone on the lead and the 10 can't catch him. Now, I also agree with your, analysis that this race, they stand out more than the rest. And, if you're going to go deep, there's not a lot in here to love. The only other two horses I could even come up with a reason to bet was the 3 Moss Max. Your gold standard for 10 is only 92, 91. I'm sorry, 72, 71, 77, 72. That's kind of low 70s. This 3 horse in 3 of the last 4 races around 69, 69, 68, just below that. But he's also been at this condition, claiming 40. He's lost by 1.5, 3, and 2 1/4, and always at long odds. He's not disgracing himself. He's kind of close. It's an interesting horse, and he shoots for 5 first or second at Belmont, so it's not like he doesn't like the horse. He might pop up one of these times in there. It's not like he's getting beaten 15, like some of those real long shots. So I thought he might be interesting to throw in there.
Sure. I just wanted to say something real quick about your 3. He got beat by the 10 by 2 lengths. So again, if the 10's going to be 8, 7 to 5, and the 3 is going to be 30 to 1, 20 to 1, maybe, is it really, for that differential in odds, is it really that far-fetched to think, the 3's on his best day and the 10's on not his best day, and that's enough to switch it around. It's not that far-fetched, so it's a good point by you.
I agree, and the only other one, and this one's probably going to be cut down, everybody in the form seems to like Storming Derby Day. And I did like him at first. But the form did point out that the last 2 races, which are weird, he basically was just never involved. After earlier in his career showing early speed, it was weird. Like he was going for a ball, and maybe that he just did not like that. He didn't want to run with them, and so they're taking him off. Because of that, he might revert back to having some speed and running at 75 and being a little bit more competitive. He might be something to take a look at. Thomas Bush is a decent turf trainer. That's kind of like his forte, and he always gets these good stormy horses that run decent on the turf. In a race that's not that great. So you could play that angle if you want. And I might toss him in if I have the extra money.
Sure. We got to watch out for the 11 because it's trained by David Donk, and he got us good a couple Sundays in a row at Saratoga betting. So we got to keep an eye on that horse too.
That's a good point.
Really deep handicapping angles here from me.
Yep.
All right, Mike. Well, hey, it's I think it's a relatively difficult sequence. If the last 2 legs play out like I think they're going to be, and they're basically between 2 horses, you can throw 3, 4, 5 horses in the other legs and keep your 50-cent pick 5 under $100 or at or around $100. That's how I look at it. And I don't even have a single.
No, I agree.
I don't even have a single. You have a single, so you can go even deeper. You could go 5, 6 horses in some of the legs, and you're still at or around $100 for the play as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck to you, Mike, and good luck to all the other handicappers out there today. Lord knows we all need it.
Good luck, Rob.
Yeah. Take care.